Hey, assalamu alaikum.
Salam rahmatullah. How are you?
Doing good. How are you? Sorry, I forgot how tedious this app is to use.
Yeah, no problem. No
Yep.
problem. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you. Sound perfect. What about me?
Sounds good.
Okay, great, great. Yeah. So I really wanted to have you on my podcast because I was starting it and I was like, who else, who could I talk about Islam with? And I was thinking about knowledgeable people, and I was like, Dr. Shadee, he's very responsive, So that was my first thought was, you came to mind, so I messaged you about it and you seemed cool with it. So yeah, here we are. Yep.
And so this is your first time doing an app or a podcast?
Yes, yes. I was gonna do some other ones, but honestly, I didn't want to talk about Islam on them because I thought it would be wrong for me to talk about it without a scholar, or if I spoke about something with other, I guess, lay people in a way which didn't know. So I felt I might say something that was wrong or cause some type of confusion. So I still was not set in my mind as to what I wanted to talk about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, this type of stuff was when you try to talk about something, it's actually the best way to learn
Yeah.
when you're actually transmitting something.
Yes. So far, how's your day been, Doctor?
Actually, it was just away. Spent a couple of days in California to unwind, but it's always a little bit of an adjustment. Uh, Working and then not working. So those adjustment days are a little. I'm really disciplined, and I try to be really disciplined and regimented. But whenever I have to travel, it sort of messes everything up.
Ah, I
All of
see.
us have some days where we're disciplined and some days we're off.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but ideally, I think discipline is so important, right? And having some kind of regimentation and knowing what hurts you and what benefits you, I think it's really important for people to figure that out earlier than later.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm always someone who has to learn stuff from experience, from bad experience. It's the best way to learn, really,
Yeah.
from experience, because otherwise it's all theory,
You
right?
learn
Where
by
you just
failing.
listen. Yeah, you're listening to someone, so you're just taking what they're saying based upon like listening to them. Whereas I like to take something from experience.
Yeah, because you learn
Uh,
better on your own from your own personal
yeah, my thing, I
failures.
always learn better from my on my own and also from experience.
Hmm.
And having tried something and failing and realizing it's bad for your health or bad for your mood or whatever, and then you adjust because
Yeah.
you have like Imam Al-Ghazali says there's three types of knowledge. There's knowledge that you heard from someone, so you applied it, knowledge that you saw yourself, and knowledge that you experienced. And the knowledge that you experience is the strongest type of knowledge because you could tell a story about yourself and what happened.
Yeah.
Whereas something that's also pretty strong, you saw it yourself. But if you just heard it, right, then that's the least because you're going on someone else's experience.
Yeah, that actually, I'd agree 100% with that. And I like Al-Ghazali talk when he speaks about Imam Al-Ghazali. He speaks about experiences, and that reminds me of something he says about I think about tasawwuf, where he says it's something along these lines. I don't want to misquote him, but he talks about how it's the experience where you have to taste the honey, where you don't know, where somebody could tell you it's sweet, for example, and you don't know what that means until you actually taste it. And I feel like that kind of shows a comparison with somebody telling you how it is, and you almost experiencing the honey for yourself. If that makes sense.
That's basically totally it because tasawwuf is the action of the deen. It's like that's how you act upon the deen. And by action upon it, you start to actually have some experiences. You start actually
Yeah.
both. Shaitan comes at you. That's your first experience. Shaitan comes at you when you start practicing your deen. Shaitan leaves a person alone who's not on his deen. So your first experience is going to be what are all these doubts? That's the first experience, right? Now, when you talk about tasawwuf, a lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind is all the positive spiritual experiences and states. But actually, the first one that they should know is the first level is that now Shaitan, now that you're taking your deen seriously, Shaitan is taking you seriously. Before that, you're just like a buffoon, bouncing around in life. But now you're actually taking things seriously. And look at what Shaitan's done to the ummah of Islam, because our ummah, has something which he's trying to destroy. Amount of fitan surrounding the ummah of Islam and the religion of Islam, it's not even, you can't even compare the fitan that Islam are facing in comparison to any other faith and religion.
Yeah.
Right? It's literally like the whole world is like ganging up from China, Europe, North America. I think South America is the only place, and that's probably because we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Right? But as soon as Islam gets there, they'll pick a fight too. I mean, the Russians, what they did, the Soviets. So because you have something and because you're doing something, now you're going to be taken seriously. And Shaitan's going to come at you with two different things.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned about the different people, nowadays they're coming at us in a way as Muslims, and like I remember hearing a hadith about which I heard from Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, where he discussed how something along these lines, where the Prophet said that we would follow the Jews in their footsteps and the Christians in their footsteps, and he saw this as, and some scholars say that this is like the Holocaust was part of this, that Muslims, they will be tried in a way that, they're going to be tested almost like how the Jews were fought. And so I feel,
Yeah.
I feel a lot of, fear for something like that. Inshallah, I never see something like that, or it never happens. I make dua with Allah that doesn't happen to me. And
Yeah, the whatever happens to them happens to the Muslims, but it's never the same. It's never this with the same harm. For example, the Prophet ﷺ spoke about the sects, right? That they break up into 71 sects, 72 sects, and the Muslims into 73 sects. But these sects, if you notice, in Christianity and Judaism, two things: they're far more divisive, and they're clear-cut lines, and they're huge. The sects are huge to the point
yeah,
that you don't know what's Orthodox anymore and what's the sect. These
yeah,
sects exist, but they're smaller in number, they're lesser in number, and they inflict less harm upon the Muslims, upon the Ummah. So they bring some confusion, but not so much, right?
yeah,
So whatever we're going to be tested with, because of Allah's love for the Messenger, peace be upon him, and His mercy for the believers, and because of the istighfar and the dua of the Salaf, which is our forefathers, for the Khalaf, which is us, will be lessened. And on top of that, if you look at trials and tribulations in the Quran, whenever it's for a non-believer, Allah uses the word alayhim, against them. But whenever it's for a believer, He uses the word lakum. So because once a mu'min knows the reason and the nature of tests and trials, it becomes something he benefits from.
mm,
And that Allah uses it to benefit him, to remove his sin, to improve his rank, etc., etc. Right? So we should view trials and tribulations in a way that once your changes, it's easier to bear it, because the worst part of a trial is not the physical pain or the financial loss or the loss of life. It's there's no purpose, that it's meaningless. Okay,
yeah,
like what's worse, someone dying in valiantly in battle to save his country, or someone who dies because a 17-year-old drunk driver hit him?
yeah,
His
yeah.
death, right? It's
One's
more.
never in
It
vain.
fills you with more anger because it's so meaningless, right?
Yeah,
So, inspiring the believers with a sense of the purpose and the meaning behind their trials, no matter how big the trial is, it becomes easy on the heart. So Allah, difficult on the body, right? Difficult on the emotions. The person, it's easy and he can recover quickly. So that's the difference between the trials that non-believers get. So we should actually never make analogy
okay,
between the
yeah,
two.
that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that, because I knew I might say that. See, this is exactly this type of stuff is why I thought it was better not to talk about Islam without, a sheikh, like publicly or something, because I might have said something like that and somebody might have heard it and told 10 other people and it would have gone
What is your
unnoticed.
profession?
My profession, me, I'm a college student. I'm studying computer science, and this is my third year.
Carolina.
Wait, one second. Your mic cut out when you were speaking, that whole sentence.
Is it in North Carolina? Your
Yes,
school?
I go to. Do you want to know the school? Wait, your mic is like doing something.
Should I change my mic? Should I get a simpler mic?
Um, I think it just started doing it. I think it probably sounds better again. Say something.
Testing.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so what were you asking? Sorry.
Okay, we can just pause and I can get a simpler mic
Yeah, that's
if you
fine.
ever need it.
That's fine. Yeah, go ahead if you want.
Let me just do that.
Yeah, and then I can just cut this part out of the end or the podcast. You might have to, once you switch your mic, there's a gear at the bottom left somewhere. It says user settings. You want to click on that. You go to voice and video, and then there'll be a input device somewhere at the top, and you got to click that and drop down and select your mic. So I'll screenshot all of that for you. So right here, the gear, and then once you click the gear, voice and video. Let me circle it. And then you got it, I think, right? Yeah. I'll just put it anyway if you need to see it. Alright, I can hear you. Say something?
All right, I'm just plugging in this mic here.
Okay, got you.
It's just a set of headphones. So while I'm doing that, you're a computer science guy. So yeah, so I was saying that because I can't talk about any other profession, right? If I talk to people about, technology or electronics, I'll probably mess them up and waste their money. Right?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone's got their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. This is my third year, so I study at the school.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So what school are you in? Duke?
No, University of North Carolina at Pembroke.
UNC, Tar Heels.
It's the same branch, or it's the same, like it's a UNC school, but it's not the Tar Heel school. It's the smaller one. It's
Gotcha,
like
okay.
there's like four of them, and Tar Heel one is the biggest one that everybody knows. But this is like a smaller one. It's still a UNC school, but so it like looks good on my.
Where are you in North Carolina? Which part of North Carolina are you in?
I live where I live usually, not outside the school year, or I mean outside the school year during the summer and during the breaks is near Raleigh, if you know where that is. It's like the capital, and
Okay.
yeah, and then it's like it's like a really small town, like about an hour away from Raleigh, called Goldsboro, and my school is at a place called it's near Fayetteville, which I'm sure you don't know where it is. It's like nowhere. You can't like find on a map if you tried, but it's like
Where you live is the that triangle, right? That what they
yes,
call the academic triangle
yeah,
or whatever.
yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm looking here at your picture.
Yeah.
I thought that was you and like your wife or something.
Oh no, no, no. It's I should have changed it. It's like a joke image. Like it's a picture of Kanye West and his wife, and they're wearing like Muslim clothes, and I liked the picture, so I made it my profile picture.
What is it? What does that say? I can't read the
I
Arabic
don't
there.
know. Here, I'll put it on. Let me find it actually, because I had put it on there a while ago. So hold on just a second. Let me see if I can Google it.
Thought all this time like you're a married man or something.
Oh no, of course not. My parents will kill me if they found out. No, I'm just kidding. Here, let me see. Yeah, I don't know what it says. My Arabic is not it's not very good, but I speak Urdu. Like my family's from Pakistan, so I speak Urdu. But I put it in the chat. It says, yeah, I don't know. Sa, yeah, I can't tell. Sai, Sali, see, Fasi. The whenever I try to like read Quran with my mother, I make like 200 mistakes every time I read, and then so my Arabic is very terrible when it comes to this.
What do you got? What do you got for us?
Hey, wait, what were you saying? Sorry, your mic cut out again. I think it's an internet
No.
issue with us.
Yeah.
Say something again?
Testing.
Yeah, what were you saying?
Saying so. Yeah. What do you have today for today's podcast?
So I wanted to talk about for the biggest thing was issues facing Muslims, young Muslims in America and in the West, and how, we deal with these things, and, just my personal experiences with it, and I wanted to know your thoughts on these. So, like,
Okay.
first,
Let's
yeah.
hear him.
So, first, I wanna talk about something that happened recently. So, at my school, they held a meeting for it was the Muslim Student Association. I'd never really heard of it before. And well, I did actually hear of it a few years ago, but I didn't know anything about it, and I was very hesitant about joining it because I didn't want to join any group. I didn't want to put myself out there, like, around people, that possibly I didn't really know them. I didn't want to associate with, other individuals, but everybody wanted me to, join this organization, so I'm like, okay, I'll join the Muslim Student Organization. And whenever I joined it, the it they had very little actual, like, no individuals in the group were very, I guess, proactive about their Islam, and they almost, it was like any type of, religious discussion the two or three kids wanted to have with each other was like instantly shut down, and it wasn't seen as good to, for those type of students to, even talk about anything that was possibly sectarian in a way. And it was like not like sectarian, but something that you like a Shia and a Sunni, if they didn't agree on, it was like off limits or something. And the it was not very. I felt like they had a very Muslim identity, but they didn't really know much about their deen. And I feel like a lot of Muslims nowadays, they struggle with that, or they don't really even struggle with it. They just were never really introduced properly to their religion, and they don't know it necessarily. And I think it's more of almost like a ethnic type thing or an identity type thing. And I mean, what do you think about that?
There are two things that play here, and this doesn't just happen in America. And this time period that we're in, this has happened in the past too. And that is the difference between social work, right, and social activism, and theology. The question is, what do we prioritize? Are we prioritizing social work results, or are we prioritizing the text that our religion is basically based on, right? Which is Quran, Hadith, scholarship, etc. So which one comes first? That's the main question. You have a lot of groups, they actually prioritize the social work first. And when you do that, if you compromise theology, those groups never succeed. Like the theory behind things, or the theology and the law behind things. Why does it work? Because the nature of the work is you're calling it Muslim work or Islamic work. All right. So the priority that you're in your name, Deen itself, is Islam itself. So if you compromise or don't pay enough attention to what that thing actually is, work ends up being incoherent.
Yeah.
Okay. And ultimately ineffective and ultimately unsuccessful. One of the groups that did this, right, are you, the Muslim Brotherhood. Are you Egyptian?
No, I'm Pakistani. I think it cut out again. Sorry. I don't know what's going on today.
One of the groups that does this, that actually did this, and I would say sort of fell into this trap, is the Muslim Brotherhood. So your name sounds sort of Egyptian. Are you Egyptian or?
Oh no, I'm Pakistani.
So the Muslim Brotherhood is a group that it started off really good, and then eventually, though, they prioritized social work, right? Like the results of the ummah and all that stuff, and unifying the ummah and all that. They prioritized that over theology. So their members ended up with all sorts of different ideas about different theologies. One set of ideas, and others in Syria had different set of ideas, etc., etc. So whenever you have a group that prioritizes the social element of things over the textual element of things, they're going to end up with an incoherence, and the ummah itself will not accept it. It won't be beneficial, right? It'll die out. Now, there's a verse which says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Right? So this verse tells us, hold on to the rope of Allah and do not separate. Okay? So what is the rope? What is that? That's basically telling us, when we say the rope of Allah, we're talking about the actual meaning and the true understanding of God and His Prophet and the message that they brought. After that, then you be unified. You can't unify on something that's contradictory or contrary to the essence of what you're calling yourself. You're calling yourself Muslim. So if there's something that's going to contradict the Quran or contradict Hadith, right, or contradict scholarship, meanings of this Quran and Hadith, then at that point your unity is going to lead you to harm and not good. So whenever I see groups like this, it's a very simple breakdown of what are you guys prioritizing? Are you prioritizing getting this thing right or just being together? If they're prioritizing getting it right, they should be focused a lot on knowledge and understanding, proper understanding. Mm-hmm. If they're prioritizing on, social work, then I would say just call yourself a social group.
Yeah. Because religion is kind of...
Don't attribute it to a religion. As soon as you attribute it to a theory or a religion or any idea, don't consider Islam as a theory, we consider it a revelation. But as soon as you attribute yourself to a thing, an idea, a faith, a religion, revelation, then you have to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
Attribute yourself like, all right, we're just a bunch of guys that want to have fun. All right, so now all you need to do is get together and have fun, right? Or get together and do charity. You could be Muslim, Jewish, Christian, otherwise. But as soon as you say, we're going to call ourselves like the communist students, well, you got to practice your communism properly, right?
Yeah.
You can't go opening up businesses, right, and having private property.
Of course.
If you're going to have a restaurant, and you're going to call it a vegetarian restaurant, you got to observe what is understood as vegetarianism, which is that you don't have chicken or meat.
Yeah. So you don't...
Once you attribute yourself to an abstraction, you have to live up to that abstraction. And you cannot live up to it unless you actually study it. You go to the experts, right? And then you abide by basically the tenets of those of that abstract idea.
Yeah, I think we have almost an issue with like just not just like in America, I'd say, like you said earlier, but like in general, where we in a way have become so confident in our faith that we tend to a lot of times not study it, or we don't even look at it or practice it because we're, we don't we don't feel like it's as important to us as, going to work, or, listening to your boss, like people. I think a lot of times, we have this very worldly mindset where we see things as I'm going to go to work because my job wants me to, and my boss wants me to, and he's going to take my pay away if I don't, or I'm not going to get a raise or something like that. But as soon as it comes to the dean, I think a lot of us, we all make excuses. We say, hey, why do I have to why do I have to pray right now? I can just do it later, or, why do I got to do
Well,
this?
the reason for all that is that there's a lack of two things, which is there's a lack of any scholarship of institutional power, right?
Hmm.
So people respect institutions that work well. People respect knowledge. Okay, people respect when someone and makes a point that makes sense and has some kind of that there's an authoritative body. Okay, we have none of that. So any person who's going to come upon Islam in America, they're going to go into a masjid that's disorganized. They're going to hear a guy talking off the top of his head, and there's not going to be a feeling of an authoritative body or a powerful institution. Okay, there's no money involved in this, in the sense that there's nothing to gain or to lose, right? From thing in Islam in America. So because we lack those two things, it's a free for all. It's like a wild, wild west, and our job is to try to change this, right? And some people, they are, falsely imagine isn't being made, but actually they're completely wrong. Institutions are coming up. They might not be aware of it, but they're not being aware of something is pretty much irrelevant to the reality of it actually happening. Institutions are coming up every day. There are more young people studying, and there's what's developing here is a type of consensus on what are a type of consensus on what are the things that we're going to, how are we going to define things, what terminology are we going to use, et cetera, et cetera. People are going to be surprised if they're not paying attention and they're not getting on board with the program a few years when they see that, this thing has turned the corner, right? There's a lot of young scholars, young, advanced students of knowledge, if we don't want to say scholars, okay, that are coming together and working together and building. It's happening very quietly, but just mark my word, give it 10, 15 years, you're going to start seeing institutions and big personalities all in like ducks lined up in a row, and that's you're going to be your that's what's going to bring people's respect. It's going to command people's respect.
Yeah,
So it's taking time. It's going to take a while, but it is happening.
eventually, inshallah, it'll happen. I think a lot of times we tend to like see we tend to fight amongst ourselves in a way about like little issues, especially in the West, even like just very small thing. I don't want to bring anything specifically up because like I don't want to, just rub it. Or do you want me to give you an example of like something that just rubs everyone the wrong way, and you could give your thoughts on it?
I mean, if what we're saying is based upon knowledge, right,
Yes. Okay. So
and not tribalism,
yeah,
then no issue is off the table. Every issue is on the table to be
got you.
discussed. And it's just like the way you discuss it. Or you want to just go and if a person is going and inflaming hate, that's what's going to offend people. But if it's
Yeah.
just like we're just having a discussion about a point and we have our evidences,
Mm.
then
Yeah.
then I mean that's got to be on the table. If
Yeah.
we can't be silenced about that.
Yeah. So I think one thing that is often discussed, I think, among Muslims nowadays is like, especially in the West, is I think only in the West actually, where people a lot of times have this debate about like Zabiha, non-Zabiha, and I think it causes a lot of distrust amongst like fellow Muslims, and I've seen it like where there's Muslims who, they come to the masjid and they don't like trust anyone else's food, and other Muslims, they themselves are not doing the good thing, and it's like I find that we as a whole unit have just kind of created mistrust amongst each other in a way because of just that one issue. And there's, I think, a lot of other issues that are like similar to that, like for example, like how the differences between like Salafism and like how I don't want to say like tasawwuf, but like or Sufism, but like just people who practice tasawwuf, and like just the different, there's a lot of small differences, I'd say, or sometimes big differences that cause a lot bigger issues than they should, in my opinion. So what's your
All right,
thought on that?
so you mentioned two different things, but
Yes.
let's just look at the one issue of the biha meat. So Allah tells us in the Quran, Surah Al-An'am, فَكُلُوا مِمَّا ذُكِرَ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ, which means eat what Allah's name was mentioned upon. This ayah, as well as numerous hadith and all of the four Sunni schools, require that if you're going to eat, it has to be slaughtered, and that slaughter is by cutting, the trachea and the veins of the neck, right? So you got four things in the neck. You got two arteries, you got a windpipe, and you got the throat where the food goes down, right? So you cut them. You cut three of them. You cut all of them, right? That's called dhabh. And when you recite Allah's name upon it, and you cut them like that, it's called zakat. Al kaf alif ta marbuta, right? There's no madhab that allows except that it was slaughtered with zakat.
Okay.
So when you actually open up the books, you do not find a debate. Okay.
Yeah.
Debate. So this idea that you just take any meat and say Bismillah and eat upon it, this is if you're actually like the two circumstances. Number one, if you're actually going to die, right? At that point, all the haram becomes halal, even if it's pork. That's number one. The meat that people use for that is for Muslims who their neighboring Muslims felt that these new Muslims may not have been taught to say Bismillah when they slaughter their meat. So they're still slaughtering with the knife, right? But they may not have learned yet because they just maybe took Shahada yesterday, right? And then they slaughtered a meat the same day, and they're offering the meat to the older Muslims. So their veteran Muslims are asking the Prophet, what should we do about this meat? Because these Muslims slaughtered the meat properly, but we don't know if they learned to say Bismillah or not.
Yeah.
In Islam. For that scenario, the Prophet said, you say Bismillah and eat it. Accept their gift so you don't offend them, and say Bismillah yourselves. Instance in which the Prophet said, say Bismillah and eat it yourself. But as for the issue of that are slaughtered, there is actually no discussion, okay, in Islamic law, Sharia, that puts on the table the idea that meat doesn't have to be slaughtered with Allah's name mentioned upon it. Okay, so that's number one. There's also no discussion as well in that if you accept the invitation of a Muslim, meats. If you go into someone's house, a Muslim's house, you accepted his invitation, you don't question his meat. People who want to know about the manners related to that, it's that accepted his invitation to enter his house. If you have doubt about his meat, then don't accept his invitation to begin with. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're friends with him and you just learn something new, well, then share it with him. Listen, I just discovered that we're not supposed to do this, and this is what I learned. I need to do that, and if I'm going to come over, I'm just going to ask if I can, if we can have halal meat. If you're friends, you should be able to have that discussion.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, vegans and vegetarians are never shy about telling us they're vegans and vegetarians, right or wrong.
Yeah, that's true. For sure.
Here?
Yeah. I was saying that's definitely true.
Vegans and vegetarians, I mean, they'll tell you before you ask them, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to halal meat, that's not a discussion that people need to shy away from. So you just bring it up nicely in a nice way, and you say, like, this is what I do, and if you can, possibly accommodate, and that's it. That's how simple it is. About it, well, then suck it up and have the conversation, or don't accept the invitation, and then you have to deal with you're going to deal with it either way, because if you don't accept the invitation, you're going to be asked, why aren't you accepting the invitation? So either way, you're going to have to bring it up, right? Yeah. So this is why to be a Muslim today is to get in a little bit to awkward conversations, to awkward scenarios, that it's going to have to happen, right? You cannot have be operating by a standard, does not know about this standard nor recognize it, and think that everything's going to be smooth and hunky-dory.
Yeah.
It's only going to become smooth and hunky-dory after certain people who have mental toughness and manners at the same time and diplomacy are going to go out there and say, I need to have this discussion with you about such and such. Okay? And here's the thing. The more you think about it, right? And you just, just say it, right?
Yeah.
Become.
Don't be afraid of it, I guess,
I mean, you have to avoid two things. Avoid the shyness that allows you that disallows you to talk. Avoid the arrogance or the boldness that makes you disrespectful.
Be in the middle.
In between, you're good to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the way I've always like me personally, I've never, like, my family, we always eat zabiha, and we like for a long time even we had our own like animals and stuff, and we would slaughter chickens and all that, but we usually we buy from a halal grocery store with they hand slaughter and everything. Like my dad is very how do you call it? He's really wary about those things, because I think before I was born in New York, and before my dad lived in Connecticut, and he used to go into this store, and they would sell halal chicken, or they called it halal chicken, and he would go there I think every day for lunch, and he would eat.
Part of Connecticut.
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Because it was before I was born, but he would go in there for lunch all the time, and one day I think because he heard it was halal, and he hadn't been in America way too long, so he didn't know, that there was like some people had this difference of opinion on halal, and so he ate from there like all the time, and one day one of his friends told him, he's like, hey, I saw you eating there, there it's not zabiha, right? And he's like, but the shop owner told me it's halal. And so my dad, he goes to the shop owner and he asks him about it, and he says, it's chicken. Chicken is halal. And so because of that, my dad is very cautious about eating meat ever since then in the U.S., because he always tries to find the zabiha, and alhamdulillah, I've never eaten non-zabiha meat. So.
Yeah, that's a subject, therefore, of trust, whether or not you trust the people.
Yeah.
So there's a trick that some people use when they say the word halal. What they're referring to is the permissibility of the animal, not the actual.
Like if it's a beef, they'll say it's not pork, it's halal.
Yeah, exactly. That's the meat. That's what they mean by that. So when people say that, and that's how they talk, it's sort of a dishonest thing by saying that people do sometimes. To pass off food as halal, where in fact what they mean is that the animal itself is halal, that it's not pork.
Yeah, I see.
It's not an honest thing to do, and people shouldn't do that. But they just do it to get the business or something, or they're ignorant of it. I mean, you shouldn't go into a trade and you're ignorant, right, of something like that. But yeah, so that's an issue of trust, right? And we treat that just like you would treat anything else that is delicate, right? Do you trust this person or not, right? That's how simple it is.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that for sure because I think it's like almost like a semantical thing they're trying to do is say, hey, it's halal, but
Yeah.
is it? Yeah, I think I said earlier I never ate nanzabiha, but I think I once by accident did, and now I just
Yeah.
remember that. But um, it was actually at a masjid event,
Yeah.
and there was some chicken, and I ate it, and then later we found out it wasn't halal. But you know, my dad told me it wasn't a sin or anything because I didn't know, and nobody really knew about it except for, it was like a mistake or something apparently. But yeah, so
So what else we got to talk about?
so okay, another thing I wanted to bring up with you was I wanted to talk about the how today so this is kind of a controversial topic, but I want to bring it up with you because I felt I needed to know the true scholarly like opinion on this. So in like very recently, you heard about what happened in Brunei, right? Or Brunei,
Yeah.
however they say it. Yeah. So um personally, and this is just me as a layperson giving my opinion, I think as long as it's implemented properly, it's okay. But I wanted to know what you thought about something like that.
Well, all right. So just in case anyone out there doesn't know, you're talking about the Prince of Brunei or the King of Brunei, whatever, Sultan of Brunei, announcing that he's going to apply the had on homosexuals, right?
Yeah.
Or gay sex that's practiced in public. Okay, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yep.
So, hudud punishments come to guard and protect and a pristine society. The Prophet ﷺ taught people Tawheed, and he taught them about the Akhirah for years and years and years, and then taught people about everything else in Islam. And then hudud punishments came down once when there was a society that was aged and a society that was filled with iman and light, to protect that society from the destructive forces of these sins. Okay, it's to take things gradually and not burden people with something that they cannot establish. And the proof of that is that Omar bin Khattab, in fact, actually did not apply the hudud punishments during a time of famine.
Yeah.
To us that there can be a judgment call on when something is applied and when it isn't, right? So if you ask me, if I ruled a nation, desire is to bring these people into Islam. Islam is not something you can force upon people.
Yeah.
It's something of the heart. Unlike other philosophies, Islam is of the heart. It's not of the body or the mind only, right? So my take on it is that if I was ruling a nation, every action that I do is going to reflect, right, the reaction of the people towards Islam, towards the Prophet, is going to reflect on me. It's on my scales of judgment. So what I would do is there's 1,000 steps to be done before I would establish these punishments.
Yeah. Because you have to
One
protect
of these things is
society.
actually engage the iman of people, right? Like, I would educate the people. I would do programs of education. I would do programs that, like, what's called qulub, or brings people's hearts closer to iman. Okay, how are you going to lay down a law, follow it, even just practically? Forget anything else. Just practically speaking, how are you going to lay down a law, all right, that involves seen. For people, no knowledge of who this unseen is, right? You have to first educate. You have to then soften hearts. You have to do a thousand things. It says, oh, so you're not going to apply Allah's law. No, we are, in the right time. And what's the proof of that? The Prophet, peace be upon him, told Mu'adh bin Jabal. He sent him to Yemen to teach the people there and to be their leader. He said, teach them, relay upon them the Tawheed. If they accept it, then teach them Salah. Then teach them Zakah, or take from them Zakah, right? Teacher, he taught that if you're coming with Islam, bring things one at a time. Once.
Yeah.
You don't come and bring the whole thing and put it on people's shoulders.
Yeah.
So this is my thing. When I looked at it, the way I looked at it, and what the Sultan of Brunei did, is just because something is found on the books of Sharia does not mean it was the right time.
Yeah. I understand that.
And the liberals, they want us to say that no, we disavow hudud altogether. Well, I say to them, you can disavow what you want. Leave me to believe what I want to believe, and I believe in God and His Prophet, right? They're all about diversity. Well, how about diversity of law? How about diversity of epistemology? How about diversity of cosmology? So I do believe in everything that Allah brought. The implementation of it, it's something that's going to take number one. It's going to take a lot of scholars to examine situations and look at what are the steps that must be taken first, right, before this is implemented. Number two, if a person imagines that Islam's goal is to implement hudud punishments and that's what sacred law is, then they're also mistaken, right? Like the fence around a palace, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to live safely and happily in the palace. The fence is not the goal. First thing that you see on the outside, right? But it's not the goal. It's part of the goal. It comes at the end when you've built your structure and now everything's good. Now we need to protect it. Okay, so that's the understanding that I would take. And before anyone who is going to do anything about hudud, which haven't been established for 500 years, to have consulted the senior scholars, and my opinion, your opinion, Joe Schmo's opinion out there, doesn't matter. We have elder scholars in our ummah, right? Mm-hmm. And we're an ummah of elders. We believe in elders. Consulted, okay? This was an action done with haste, and it was an action done, and it's not because I think that the liberals are upset, so I'm trying to argue against it. I could care less about whether they're upset or happy.
Yeah.
Right? I actually don't feel that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
There's time, there's steps, right? Because the reason being is that you can actually do something that's from Islam, and you could totally sway people from the deen itself. You're responsible for that.
Yeah.
Bring people into Iman. And if you're scaring them away because of you're doing your Islam improperly, then you're responsible for that.
Yeah.
Allahu Alam, but that's how I understood the issue.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a really good way to look at it, because I think, like, if you look at in the West with things like prohibition laws during the like, people, their hearts hadn't changed yet, so when they tried to prohibit things like alcohol, instead of those things actually going away, people just found more unsafe ways to do those things.
I mean, a lot of people give that analogy, but I would say that a Muslim with Islam, with Iman, right? If the Quran has settled truly in their hearts, accepts a law that prohibits what is haram, right? Iman of Christians and how they handle a prohibition, again, that's not an analogy for us.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Because that's their Iman feeds someone contentment. Feeds contentment. And we don't believe that what they believe in is true. We don't believe that the same contentment and settlement of the heart will enter into their hearts as enters a believer's heart. The evidence of that being in the Quran, Allah saying, "Bil-mu'minina," for those who believe properly and truly, He is Ra'uf and Rahim. And Ra'uf and Rahim mean that He has subtle kindness and compassion. And from that subtle kindness and compassion is reserved to believe properly. Other non-believers, or Jews and Christians who believe in God, or good people, quote unquote, God, Allah, we don't say that Allah cannot have mercy on them. He may have mercy upon them. But mercy is of levels, right? There's mercy of the body, there's mercy of the soul. Okay? And we believe firmly that there's a degree of contentment and satisfaction that comes with the correct belief. That degree of contentment and satisfaction is what calms the heart of a Muslim and makes him not desire what Allah has prohibited. If we're going to punish people for breaking prohibitions, we first need to give them the ability to have the iman that causes them not to do it in the first place.
Yeah, to differentiate.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you, okay, listen, I need you to go in the next 24 hours without food. Well, before I ask you that, I need to actually provide you with the chance to have eaten in the first place.
Yeah, that's.
That's common sense, right? So if I want to tell you don't commit sins, first I need to give you the iman of worship and the dhikr that will give your heart contentment so that you won't desire them in the first place.
Yeah, that is.
And then after years of that, okay, then and now you are so experienced in this matter. Now anyone in the room who does this, I'm going to punish them, right? Because you have been given ample opportunity, ample chances to strengthen your iman and to learn discipline. Completely unfair for me. Imagine you come to a kid in the house, and this kid has no manners, right? Manners. Imagine now I say to him, listen, from now on, you interrupt, you're going to get smacked. Like, how is that fair?
Yeah, he's
educate him.
It's his second nature at that point.
I never gave him an education. I never gave him a chance. I never made him even love or understand the value of manners, right? I never showed him a good example. I never rewarded him for doing good. It's very just common sense that if you're going to bring down a punishment, there are things that need to come first, right? There are things that need to precede those punishments. It really is going to be a last resort.
Yeah, right. I think for sure, like, I think the way that we, like, oftentimes, like, I think a lot of people, like, they see, you know, Islam had this law or that law, or the Sharia had this a long time ago, so this is, like, we're just gonna, you know, put it into our time, and this is how we're gonna do it. And I felt like before you mentioned all this to me, that's exactly how I was thinking too. So I thank you for bringing that to me, because I mean, I think my opinion's kind of changed a bit on that. And so I wanted to ask you, or talk to you on one last topic, and it is I wanted to know, for an individual who's trying to learn more about the Deen, let's say like a young person in America, like me, for example, what would be the best course of action to make my knowledge more broad? You there, Dr. Shadee? I think your mic turned off.
How about now? You hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So what a person needs to do is find a teacher, trust, and they need to study Aqidah. That's the first thing you need to study. You need to study what is it that a Muslim must believe in order to be considered a believer properly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "O you who believe, believe. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, aminu." Mean that Allah says, "O you who believe, believe." It means, "O you who believe, understand your beliefs properly." Okay, because we're not meant to be laymen. The Muslim should not try to be a layman. Okay, he should try to be learned. Islam is a religion of learning. The better we're going to, the stronger our iman will be, the doubts will go away, and the better we'll practice it. So our religion is a religion of knowledge, and the first knowledge that's the most important is aqidah, right? So they should find a teacher. Teacher should have, some kind of. He should be sort of corroborated by his peers. He should not be some kind of, a self-taught type of person. He should stick to that teacher and study his aqidah. Then he should study usul after that. So, and then after that, then we can talk.
Yeah,
Do
that makes a
first.
lot of sense. Because personally, as a I'm a college student right now, so what I wanted to always do is once I finish school, after a few years, when I get some time, maybe study Islam somewhere at some type of Islamic university. But I don't necessarily know if that was always the best course of action. If it makes
Well,
sense.
are you familiar with Hamza Maqbool? Sheikh
Um,
Hamza Maqbool?
no, I've heard the name before.
One of the things I would advise people, this is so simple, so easy. He has a series on Aqidah Tahawiyah. You can find it online, right? Maybe, I don't know, SoundCloud, right? So look him up there and listen to his Aqidah lectures,
Okay,
right?
Hamza
And when you're
Makbul. Let
and
me.
when you're listening to them, listen a second time, right? And so on and so forth. So a person should be constantly in a state of studying, and that's one of the best audio lectures series to start with, because he covers
Yeah, found it.
a uh, number of critical issues.
Yep. Okay. See, I think I found it on SoundCloud. Hamza Makbul, Chicago, U.S. Yeah, your mic's doing it again.
Hey, found it? Did you
Yeah, I
find it?
found it. Found it.
Yeah.
SoundCloud.com/H
So
Makbul.
he has a series. I don't know what he called it. I can't remember what he called it, but it's basically Aqidah Tahawiyah, and that's what people should study. It's the first thing that a person studies is that book on agreed upon beliefs and doctrines.
IGI Essentials is I think what it's called, from what I see.
Yes. I don't know how many parts it. Maybe
It
what
is. Let me
13
see.
parts or something.
10.
10. So listen to that. Study it. Listen to that. When you're done, listen to it a second time.
Okay. This I will definitely do that. Right. I don't think I have anything else I know to talk about.
Okay.
So, is it fine if I end the podcast here?
Yeah, we can wrap up here. It's fine with me.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
All
Assalamu
right.
alaikum, Dr. Shadee. It was a pleasure having you on here.
Likewise. Anytime.
Yep. See.
All right. Take care, man.
You too. You too. Yo, trying to do an encore with Dutt Jones. Hey, what's up? We're here with Scott Newton today. Oh, I see your message.
Yo, what's up, guys?
What's up? What's up, two viewers? Me and Scott. Nobody's watching this, but yeah, we're doing the encore show here. So I'm here with Pastor Dutt Jones. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I was just gonna talk about some of the news we got this week, do a little wrap up.
All right, all right.
Alright, so first things first, rest in peace to the Savage Kong.
Bro, I'm so glad I did not add you in there. Bro, I was thinking about it, but I'm like, bro, he might be, bro. I was so like, I didn't know what to talk about, bro. That guy's like famous, so I was just like, I had no clue he would even come, bro.
I see. Well, either way, rest in peace. He was a savage. It's a bit sad.
Yeah,
He was eaten by some coyotes.
he's eaten by coyotes for sure.
Um, let's see here. What else we got? League of Legends. Riot. Please nerf Kane. I don't like playing against that champion. I think he's a bit too strong. Alright, you got any other topics?
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about gay marriage within the Western society, including. No, I'm just messing around. No, bro. You want to end the podcast here?
Nah, I got some questions for you. Alright, so, do you believe in the Great White Hope?
The Great White Hope, of course, of course. Great White
Donald
Hope,
Trump?
of course, bro.
Amazing.
If I didn't, I'd be a beta.
Alright, what are your stances on recreational marijuana being legalized?
Recreational marijuana, like sports. Marijuana is for betas. Right?
So you think it should be banned
For what?
from being sold?
What did it do?
It's disgusting.
Yeah, of course. Of course it should be banned.
Alright, what do you think of the new meme, Big Chungus?
Big Chungus. It's a very fresh meme, bro. Like, I haven't seen anything like it. I'm thinking about pre-ordering the PS4 copy coming out soon. Do you think I
Oh
should?
snap. They already got PS4 copies out?
Yeah, bro. Let me find it for you. I'll link you, bro. GameStop.
Oh yeah. One Piece is on break this week. Kinda messed up. They do this every other week.
Dang.
Getting real sick and tired of it.
Here's the Big Chungus game, bro. Hello Games, I think the brand is. Yo, check this out. Bro, what if he was actually watching this?
If you're watching this, hello, thank you for tuning in. I'm grateful that you could come to my buddy's podcast.
Yep. Alright. Yo, you wanna go in the server?
Alright.
Alright, I'm ending this here.
Alright, peace out, guys.
Peace out,
Have a
everyone.
good week.
Have a good week.